From blast packs to boombots, Raze is one of the flashiest characters in Valorant. Pro play and content creators alike have taken quite the interest in the character, as she's extremely strong on a variety of maps, and her utility offers her a ton of damage. Versatility and speed, the name of the game if you're picking Raze. In today's video, we're going to dissect just what makes Raze so incredibly strong. And by the end of this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about the character to lock her all the way to Radiant. We'll also have some words of advice and secret tips from a Radiant Raze 1 trick to share with everyone. Raze has some pretty insane utility. Her showstopper allows for easy multi-kills or a simple 1-for-1 trade. Her paint shells are an amazing stall and area denial utility. They can also land you a pretty free kill. The Boombot is a piece of tracking utility that will explode on impact and help you decide where to use your utility. And the Blast Packs, also commonly known as satchels, tie everything together. So let's talk about those first. Now keep in mind, if you're looking to climb, by far the most important thing for you to master with any agent is the fundamentals. This goes far beyond things like crosshair placement and counter strafing too, because everyone talks about that. It also includes things you probably don't even realize that you're doing wrong, like peeking, spacing with teammates, or even just where you choose to stand. That's a pretty crazy thought, right? You're standing in the wrong place right now. The players who are consistently able to drop 30 in their matches are masters of all of those things. They know where to stand, and you could be too now with our Aim God Masterclass that's expertly designed to teach you all of the fundamentals that you need to know in just one course. Our goal is to have this course teach you everything you need to know, which is exactly why we are constantly updating it as users submit feedback. The game is always developing, and that's why our website is too. It only makes sense that way. With new courses posted every single month, you can be sure that you're always ahead of the curve when it comes to your mechanics. And on top of that, we also offer a rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't climb while using our service, you just don't pay. And that's the way it makes sense to us, and that's the way it makes sense to all of our happy, paying customers, people like you. We know it all sounds insane, but our number one priority is to be a standing name in the community for years to come. And the only way to do that is to create the best product that we can. Check it out using the link below. Now, we've all seen the clips of blast packs. It's been one of the most popular pieces of utility since beta. Raze mains and warming up with satchels. Name a more iconic duo for me, I dare you. Blast packs are a piece of utility that must be armed before they deal damage, but you can still use them for their primary function of movement and repositioning before arming them fully. It takes 1.5 seconds to arm them, and they'll last about 5 seconds before it explodes on a surface. It can do anywhere from 20 to 50 damage depending on the range it is from the enemy players, and it also pushes players, including yourself, away in a straight path. The speed you are pushed directly correlates to the distance and position you are at relative to the blast pack. We're going to talk mainly about how to use these to gain space on the enemy team, take peeks utilizing the blast pack, and how to properly use them to play Raze as a character. But we'll give you a basic rundown on satchel movement before we talk about the nitty-gritty aspects of them. If you want a more in-depth guide for movement, we also have a whole video dedicated to learning Raze's movement linked below. When you position yourself directly on top of the blast pack, you'll go straight up in the air, and this can be good to get to elevated positions such as a Heaven here on Haven. Let's talk about covering massive amounts of ground with Raze though, which is easily one of her strongest mechanics to master. If you're not used to how blast packs function as a movement tool, it's best to head into the practice range and do this. We'll show you the basics real quick so you can better understand it. To move quickly using the satchels, you want to throw it onto the ground and sprint at it, preferably with your knife out to get optimal speed. Jump over the blast pack when you're about 2 to 3 meters away, and when you're about halfway descended from your jump, detonate it. For the second satchel, if you're trying to go even further, a good rule of thumb is to be staring straight down and to detonate the second satchel when you start to decelerate. This will propel you at rapid speeds through the map. Now, once we have speed, let's throw in air strafing to control where we go. Air strafing, broken down, is simply just being able to control your movement in air. So, to move left in the air, you're going to want to let go of your W key and hold your A key while turning left. On the flip side, to move right, let go of your W key, hold the D key, and turn towards your right. Mastering air strafing is pretty crucial for Raze, but it's extremely simple. If you practice it a little bit, then apply it in-game, you're going to master it in no time. Using a judge can also be pretty scary for the enemy team to deal with, as you'll be in their face in the blink of an eye. So, keep in mind the weapon that you're using as you perform this push. Using blast packs to cover ground into the enemy lines can be extremely hard for the enemy players to deal with, especially if you have teammates assisting you with utility. Having teammates covering your double satchel push is pretty necessary to ensure you get onto the enemies in a safe fashion. What this can look like is as simple as a sky flash into the area that you're about to push. Any kind of flash will help take eyes away from you as you're soaring through the sky towards the enemy team. The reason double satchel is so strong is due to the fact you're moving at an extremely fast rate into where the enemy is holding. It's a great tool for entering for your team or helping them get onto site. Double satcheling can also help free up space if your team is stuck at a choke and is unable to get out. Going straight into a smoke or a closed-off area like U-Haul are going to be your best bet when satcheling in, as it gives you some cover to play around once you arrive at your desired destination. Now let's talk about some small but essential tips you should remember when using your blast packs. People tend to think that they're only for satcheling quickly into the opponents, but they can also be used for a whole lot more. Firstly, they can be used as fast area denial. Let's say you take a fight with somebody where you both tag each other and they end up unpeaking you. If you don't want them to re-peek while you reposition, you can throw a satchel into where they're hiding. This will deter them not only due to the fact that the blast pack will damage them if they try and peek, but if they decide to peek early, you can detonate it as they peek to throw off their accuracy. Throwing off accuracy through the use of blast packs can net you some fairly free kills if you do it correctly. If you know there's an enemy in a certain position, you can attempt to toss one at their feet and detonate it while swinging. If you land it properly, their accuracy will be all over the place. And since satchels push people, they can also be used to push an opponent off the spike. So, satchels are a lot more versatile than people tend to think. And lastly, let's talk a bit more in depth about satchel peeking since we touched on it earlier. Satchel peeking is one of the best ways to peek an enemy in Valorant. The speed you get while performing this peek will be hard for players at any level to fight. Now, to perform this, stick a satchel to the wall just under waist height and move in the direction you want to swing. Detonate the blast pack while moving. This is going to launch you into the enemy screen. Once you stop moving, you'll be fully accurate. Think of this simply as an accelerated wide swing. You also need to note that the enemy, if close enough, will hear you set up for the peek, so they could be ready for it. Usually this peek is stronger the closer you are to the opponent. The reason being, if you're super far away, the enemy doesn't have to adjust as much. So, this peek can be quite situational, but it is still strong when it's used correctly. The Boombot is a pretty simple piece of utility. The little guy is an equipable piece of utility that, when thrown, will travel for 5 seconds before expiring, bouncing off any wall it hits and redirecting itself, similar to a Roomba. The Boombot has a frontal vision cone, and any enemy player that goes into its path will be locked onto and chased. The enemy is able to break line of sight to avoid it though. Your little buddy has a total of 60 health, and it's going to deal 30 to 80 damage depending on how close it is to the enemy when it detonates. The Boombot is an interesting piece of utility that can clear out whole areas similar to a drone without vision. So, on offense or even on retake, the Boombot is a pretty crazy piece of utility. For example, the most standard clear with Boombot is Hookah here on Bind. This is going to let you know if there's anyone in Hookah, allowing you to effectively clear it. This doesn't mean you should only be using your Boombot on lineups to clear things though. If you got a feeling an enemy is tucked into an angle, or there are enemies holding a crossfire, you can use your boombot to confirm this suspicion. Your boombot is also good for assisting your peeks or for letting you know when to use paint shells or showstopper. You can assist peeks by throwing it at an enemy pushing you. When it locks on, swing. This is going to force the enemy to choose between shooting you or the boombot. It's quite a predicament and is pretty difficult for the enemy to deal with in a 1v1. Since you get information using the boombot, you can combine this with a well-placed paint shell to hopefully flush the enemy out or even in-game them. Your boombot is also pretty clever. He can even open the teleporters on bind. If you're playing short with Raze, standard practice is throwing your buddy through TP to open door if the enemy is taking hookah. If your boombot locks onto somebody, throw a nade through the TP to make the enemy's lives even harder. This will force them deeper into hookah or force them to fall off. This works best if your team has a pretty good setup inside of hookah. This alternatively can be done on the teleporters from B long to showers. The key here is get creative with the combo. The paint shells are amazing when combined with boombot, as they are an amazing set of damaging utility. The Raze nade detonates once after 2.5 seconds and drops 4 smaller nades. These paint shells can do a whopping 55 damage per shell, or a maximum of 275 total damage to enemies. Not only are they great for damaging, they're great for flushing enemies into either peeking you or falling off. Paint shells will recharge after getting 2 kills, and yes, this includes 2 paint shell kills. So, how should these be used? Primarily, you'll see them used to stop a push. Throwing these at the choke while the enemies are pushing makes them choose between either pushing onto site or falling back into the choke. This generally results in a fragmented push that's easy to deal with or can shut a push down entirely. You can time this to try and determine the way the round will play out. If you want to frag the team, it's best to throw this after you notice a Jett dashes out or you see one entering site. If you want to stop a push entirely, it's best to throw it earlier, or even throw it when the enemy is using informational utility to set up the push. Combining this with an Astra Suck, Fade Tether, or even Sage Slow can be a very lethal combination. The other applications include flushing and displacing of opponents, and flushing is honestly simple. If you have information an enemy is stuck in an area, flush them out using the nade. They'll either sit there and eat the nade, or they're going to be forced to make a panicked swing into your crosshair. This works very similar to a molly, and it's just a bit easier to land properly in tight angles. Since it explodes once before dropping extra shells, you can throw this in the air to make its area of effect even larger. The downside is it's much more reactable and spreads the damage more thin. Enemy displacement is similar to flushing though, and it forces the enemies off of angles they may be holding. Unlike a molly, this is fairly easy to land and cover a large area instead of just that corner area. This means you can throw it into the general area of enemies that may be holding angles and force them to back up while you advance. Paint shells, while simple at their core, are very effective for their intended purpose. Moving on to the star of the show, we have Raze's ultimate, the Showstopper. Taking a total of 1.4 seconds to wind up and 10 seconds to expire, the rocket launcher can deal 30 to 150 damage depending on where it lands. Raze's ultimate covers a large area and can be used to instantly kill enemy players. This ability is best used to deny spike defuse, stop pushes, entry onto site, or even get aggressive on defense. Easily one of the most versatile ultimates in the game, the Showstopper completes its goal of ending rounds in a flashy explosion. Now, it's important that you don't aim this rocket directly at enemies, as it's going to usually go right past them. Aim it at a wall next to them, or even better, the ground where they stand. This is going to explode and create a radius on the ground, and anyone close enough to it is going to lose instantly. It's a very simple ability, and once again, when it's combined with the rest of Raze's utility, it gets a chance to shine in a different light. The Showstopper enables triple jumping and can be combined very effectively with blast packs or even the boombot and paint shells. To triple jump with Raze's rocket, you're going to need to double satchel and pull out your Showstopper just before you throw your second satchel. This will cancel the Showstopper's pull-out animation, replacing it with a blast pack animation. From here, shoot your ultimate, and this is going to effectively give you a third boost in the form of a pushback. This can be good for entering onto site and proceeding even further after shooting your ultimate ability. Now, this is a very dangerous technique, but can be great if you have a team quick enough to get out with you. It's best to make sure you're triple jumping into cover, because this is best performed after your team throws smokes and then flash out for you. Raze's kit is probably the most synergistic utility set in the entire game, and you have to use all of these abilities together if you want to maximize how well they work. That's why we watch Radiant players. It really helps us understand the utility from a more broad perspective and gives us a glimpse at what true Raze mastery looks like. Let's take a look. Our star of today's show will be Gray FPS, who pushes Raze to a new level each time he plays.
Ooh. Get the orb.
Smoke's center. Already upside.
Just dead.
There.
Orb's coming down.
Somebody
I'll smoke it after it goes off. Expected, bro.
No one.
Get out of here! Grenade! Wait for me! One enemy remaining.
Go ace, bro. Go.
Starting off the round, we see him throw paint shells instantly to displace and fragment the enemy team. Jett dashes in, but nobody's there to help since they're waiting for the nade to expire. From here, info is gathered by Boombot that they're still short, so the opportunity is taken to push into the area silently where Boombot confirmed that there were no players. After the next kill is gained, he now has his paint shells back, which he instantly uses to push the enemies even further back as he advances. Killing the Sky and Gecko as they try to trade, Gray now knows that Brimstone most likely was displaced by the nade thrown Market as he didn't peek to trade. He makes the decision to satchel down into the Brimstone's face to seal the ace in the flashiest way possible. In this clip, we see two instances of displacement, one to fragment the enemy's push, and the next in order to advance and fragment the enemies even further. We then witness him using his speed to finish the ace. Well played on this round, Gray.
Last player standing.
Oh, fuck.
Spike down A. One enemy remaining.
In our next clip, we see Gray forcing his way into cover using his rocket and landing a kill in the process. Once he's blast packed onto site, he realizes there are 3 enemies spread out. After landing the first, his only real option here is to go into tree. He used his rocket to propel him into tree, where Chamber was waiting. Upon getting the kill on Chamber, he pulls the pin on his paint shells and denies the enemy the angle they were just peeking from. From here, Gray knows that it's likely the enemy will swing from the left, so he holds the angle and lands the kill. It's impressive to see how thoroughly Gray thought his options through while mid-air and chose his safest option. This will always be crucial when playing Raze and using her utility like this.
Spike down
got
B.
the-
Fucking no, brother.
No worries, guys here.
Our next round we'll look at, we can see him satcheling straight into the opponents with his ultimate at the ready. You can see his animation cancel off the first satchel, and off the second satchel airstrafes straight into B main. He notices the enemies are split, so he takes out the larger threat of the two. Take note how after shooting the rocket, he decides to not go straight towards the sky, so he strafes backwards slightly by holding S at the peak of his jump. This is very quick and smart decision making, as it prevents him from ending his ult in front of the sky. By doing this, it allows Gray to recover from his ultimate and hold for the sky, who then swings into him and loses the fight. He once again put himself into safety after taking this risky ultimate, and that's what a lot of Raze players are: high risk, high reward. It's important to be sure that if you decide to use Raze's utility in a risky manner though, that you cancel out as much of the risk as possible by analyzing options as you're playing the character. You don't need to double satchel in every time. Sometimes it's best to use your utility in safe manners that we talked about earlier. But just know, mastery of Raze is understanding when to take risks for a big payoff and when to sit back and use your utility in a smart and efficient way. We hope with this video we've set you up with some tech you can effectively use to help you boost your Raze play higher or even just learn Raze for the first time. Alright though guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's kind of like a gym membership guaranteeing you that you're gonna get ripped. Your local gym would probably go bust if they offered you that. But not us, because we've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the internet. We add new courses every month with over 1,000 guides curated into over 50 courses. No one can compare. We also have a direct line of communication with subscribers in our Discord so that you can get connected immediately to some of the best players in the game who will respond to every question you ask. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you're serious about improving your game. Playing a match against a veteran trickster Yoru always feels like a game of Russian roulette. One moment you're shooting a clone, and on the next, well, you're a goner. The worst part about it is that you don't even see where they killed you from. Sneaky, stylish, and absolutely unpredictable. That's the name of the game whenever you wear Yoru's deceitful mask. And today is the fated day we learn the magician's secrets. So in this video, we're going to be taking a closer look at what makes Yoru the mastermind trickster in Valorant. So lace up your dimensional shoes here as we explore this blue demon's world of illusions. Starting off, we have Yoru's Gatecrash. This utility is what makes Yoru a mobile agent. You can either place Gatecrash on a stationary spot or let it travel into the direction of your choosing. If you want an added layer of confusion for the enemy team, you can also fake activate your Gatecrash to lure them into thinking that you're already nearby or behind them. Now, even though Gatecrash is often used as a get-out-of-jail-free card, there are many ways you can utilize it for the aggressive plays as well. For instance, throwing your Gatecrash in a certain direction allows you to work with a variety of lineups, slipping you unexpectedly deep into enemy territory. Here's a quick look at some of the maps where you can use your Gatecrash to sneakily access risky but rewarding dangerous grounds. Number 1. For attacking on Sunset, head to tiles and stand on this corner here where the hanging gloves are. Then aim your crosshairs towards this brick line on the wall and throw your Gatecrash in that direction. Now, assuming that the door to B market is open, this portal can take you all the way to the enemy spawn for a sneaky backstab. Number 2, for defending on bind, head to B long and stand on this corner near the teleporter. Next, aim your crosshair towards this corner on the window and send your Gatecrash. This is going to help you bypass the enemy's anti-flank utilities for an unexpected flank. Number 3, and finally, for attacking on Lotus, head to the corner of the barrier on C Mound and place your crosshair towards the edge of this inverted L. Sending your Gatecrash will help you get behind your enemies on C, landing directly at CT. Do take note though that this lineup is best paired with a Yoru flash on sight or any loud utility that can mask your teleportation. Additionally, it is best to not overuse these lineups so you can avoid the enemy figuring out where you're coming from. Now, there are many more Gatecrash lineups you can use across the different maps in Valorant, and since Yoru is a natural-born trickster, so feel free to get creative with your playstyle when messing around with your Gatecrash. Just don't forget to let your team know what you're planning to do so they can work around your game plan. Decoy is arguably the best confusion-causing utility in the entire game of Valorant. Now, while to some extent, a little presence of mind can definitely help predict whether it's a clone or not, it can still plant doubts in the minds of your enemies. You can either send the clone from the get-go or prematurely place it in a spot, However, prior placement requires thinking 2 to 3 steps ahead, which often happens if you are a Yoru main. Visualizing the plane in your head before executing it can help the success rate of your game plan absolutely skyrocket. Now, with enough practice, you're also going to be able to make snappy decisions on the fly as you play Yoru. It's also worth mentioning that decoy works great when paired with either your ult or a flash. For example, flashing out of a smoke is a common tactic, but if you send a clone simultaneously, it would be more confusing for the enemy team. Now, as for your ult, you can send a decoy while you're inside your dimensional drift, which we'll get into further detail later on. Yoru's decoy can also be used to buy time as you try to get the enemy off of defusing the spike. Just do make sure that you're well hidden whenever you send out your clone to make it less obvious for the enemy team. Now, if you're feeling a bit ballsy here, you can also condition the enemy team into thinking that you always send a clone at a certain spot. After a few rounds of conditioning, try to imitate your clone and you might just catch the best timing of your Valorant life. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Well, try telling that to a Yoru who flashes you and ends up behind you with a knife. Yoru's main weapon in his kit is none other than his blindside. It's basically a unique flash that needs to bounce off a surface to activate it. But of course, other than functioning as a normal flash, it's often used as a sound masking utility to prevent enemies from hearing you teleport elsewhere. Now, there are a number of ways you can utilize his blindside to max out its capabilities. Starting off with the basics, throw it off a wall, making sure it bounces inward a certain angle you wish to peek. By throwing it on the ground in front of you, you can also easily pop flash out of corners and smokes. Now, for more advanced mechanics, you can actually throw it directly on the ground you're standing on as you move forward. Blindside will activate right beside you, ensuring that you're only half blindsided while your enemies either get their sights removed for a while or be forced to look away as you pick them off. Now, if you haven't heard, Yoru actually comes equipped with a myriad of one-way flashes that allow you or your teammates to peek with ease. Let's take a look at some of the overpowered ones to get your nerdy lineup engines roaring. Number 1. On bind defense, stand near the edge of the wall right outside of lamps. As soon as you hear or feel a presence on a short, throw a flash by aiming towards the line on this pipe. Peek out with your flash to pick off your blinded enemies. Number 2. On split defense, you can do a one-way flash from behind the box on A site once the enemy team pushes from A main or heaven. Simply aim your crosshair towards this wall, then peek out simultaneously. Number 3. Lastly, on a haven defense, hug this wall on C site and aim your crosshair towards this tree branch. Peek out a C long as soon as you throw the flash for easy kills on the unsuspecting enemy team. There's also a lot of room to get creative with your blindside here, as long as you got a good grasp on the trajectory and map landscape. You can always use the obstacles around you to create unpredictable flashes that'll easily turn duels into your favor. Again, just make sure you communicate with your team properly so you can avoid just full blinding your allies. For the final trick in Yoru's sleeve, we have his ultimate, Dimensional Drift. Yoru's ult allows him to traverse through areas freely while being completely invulnerable from gunshots and utilities. Now, some of the common uses involve getting info in a specific area, recovering the spike, picking up guns, or just simply causing confusion to the enemy team. Using Dimensional Drift requires strategical planning so as not to waste the ult. You'll have to rely on your mental mapping skills to visualize your plan before or even during the execution. Remember that you can use all of your utilities while in the Dimensional Drift, meaning you literally have dozens of plays and combos to come up with as soon as you use it. Now, as an example, let's say a teammate carrying the spike dies in a dangerous spot, leaving the spike deep within the enemy's territory.
Time to jump.
You can send a gate crash towards the opposite site and cast your ult to recover the spike. This will allow you to trick the enemies into thinking that you're ulting to engage in battle when, well, in reality, you have a TP set up in the opposite site to plant easily. Now, of course, At some point, your enemies will be able to guess your motives as soon as they realize you have an ult ready. This is when you can start playing even more mind games with the enemy team by either deploying a decoy, using the blind side, or faking your gate crash. Think of it as if you're playing chess in Valorant, where you think 2 to 3 steps ahead to ensure you get the checkmate. Now, one of my favorite combos with the Yoru ult is if you have a Fade on your team. It's simply just chaotic how well Fade's Nightfall works with Dimensional Drift. Fade's ult can easily deafen the enemy team while you breeze your way through their backs and they'll never even hear a single sound from you. Now, of course, this play requires the rest of your team to cause mayhem in the front to further sell the backstab. But once you've successfully bypassed their defense, all that's left is to collect your frags for an easy round. Now, SkillCapped always goes the extra mile when it comes to crafting gameplay tips and tricks, and if you don't know that already, well, now you know. If you've made it this far, then you're in for a treat because we're going to be dissecting some of the craziest Yoru rounds by all the pro players. Now, to start it off, we have Nats from Team Liquid.
Okay. Wait, I'll let you know. Do it. Can you flash?
Time to jump.
Flashing Jett.
Wait 10 seconds.
Dropping smokes.
Wait, I have flash in 8 seconds.
Let me get orb. Wait, let me get orb. I have my ulti. I'll ult side, okay? Wait, ulting side in a second.
My ult's ready.
Could be flank 2 nothing.
I'll handle the fake teleport.
Raze too short. One side. On me. You guys can spam him. I'm blocking him. Nice. Picking short.
I'm back.
One enemy remaining.
Good job, bro.
Nat starts the round by sending a gate crash towards Elbow. He then proceeds by sending a decoy to join Jett as she pushes A main. His next move is to TP into Elbow as soon as his teammate Gecko flashes that area. This allowed him and Jett to easily take space in Elbow, especially since no one was guarding that area. However, even if there was someone, they'll either get flashed and killed by Nats or Jett, or they're going to be forced to back away. He continues the side execute by sending another gate crash towards CT. Notice how Nats comms that he's going to flash to site, making sure that Jett is on the same page should she decide to peek or dash right after it. Unfortunately, their execute slows down due to the well-timed molly of the enemy Gecko. Nevertheless, Nats realizes that he's one orb away from his ult, so he decides to back away and claim ult orb. And we all know having a Yoru ult makes it way easier to take site due to the info that it provides. Now, on top of that, it can also force the enemy team to back away or hesitate due to the amount of chaos caused by the dimensional drift. Now, as soon as he ults, he calms Raze and Cypher's location in short, as well as Gecko's on site. Now, here's a prime example of one of the creative plays you can do while in dimensional drift. He basically stands in front of Gecko while preventing him from moving forward. Since his teammates can see this through the minimap, Gecko is an easy target to spam. This play absolutely bamboozles him, leaving him defenseless and eventually just biting the dust. Next, he flashes Raze and Cypher, gets behind cover, and goes out of the ult. He swings the Raze and gets the kill, while his teammate Chamber picks off the final kill. Initially, the round could have gone another route due to the enemy Gecko delaying the push. Thankfully, Nats realizes he can get ult, which greatly helped in taking space on site and winning the round. Now on to our next Yoru contender, we have the king of Sentinels himself, Tins. And what better way to see a Yoru Tins clip than on Bind, am I right?
I'm so sorry. You want Ghost?
Time to hunt.
Yeah.
Sky B.
No.
Nah? Okay.
Sky's time to B.
Okay. Cypher
Wait,
cam high
hold on,
above
where-
spawn.
I don't know.
Do you guys want me to smoke?
Go for a TP play now.
I'm dead.
Play might be better.
Room close, B.
I'm walking.
Flashing side.
Backside.
You guys, let me know if you want to come in.
I'll go
I can
short,
flash
go
for you to
short.
come out Raze if you want.
It's okay, hold on.
Oh, that's a clone close to me. Ready? Flashing.
Launching smoke. Dim beacon down.
From behind. Oh, nice.
I'm one.
Molly.
One's rotating now. He'll be late. We got you
Time to jump.
He's still.
I'll TP.
Oh my
I'll
God.
TP.
That shit lasts forever.
I'll
Two of us
TK
are
this
one.
one.
One is elbow. Two.
One's elbow already.
Fake
One
teleport.
enemy
One
remaining.
I'm re-wrapping around. I'm re-wrapping around. Just stay alive. Just stay alive.
Last player standing.
TP side.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Now, at the start of the round, you'll notice that Ten's team is on a bonus round. Tens realizes that not everyone in the enemy team can get full shields with complete utilities, so he decides to get an outlaw. And if you're a Tens fan, you know how ridiculously nasty he can be as a sniper, even on attacking. The first thing Tens does is dry peek B long in case there's any early peekers. As soon as Skye gets on the wall, she starts to dog B long to clear garden. Notice how Tens suddenly switches to classic and aim towards the top part of the building. Since he knows they're playing against a Cypher, the spot here that he pre-fires is actually a common spot for Cypher's camera to get early info on B long. Now, it may seem like a trivial thing here, but it actually helps Ten's team a lot, especially if he destroys the camera. This will automatically deny the enemy team from gaining info easily on B long. When Tens notices that Skye has already made it deep into garden, he decides to follow along in that route. Due to Skye spotting the camera's location earlier, as seen on Tens' minimap, he was already able to note that location, allowing him to destroy it from B long. Now, at this point, it's just about time to execute a B hit. And in true Tens fashion here, he gets an easy pick on the Cypher hiding behind the green box. He likely thought that since he just used his camera a while ago, he must have been hiding in that spot. Well, lo and behold, he gets the money shot with his outlaw, making it way easier to take the site due to the removal of Cypher's traps. He then sends a decoy to bait any more enemies on site, while Skye pushes alongside it. Now, unfortunately, Skye gets picked off as Tinge tries to flash back site and wallbang the area as well. He then gets smoked off since the enemy team already knows his location. Nevertheless, this doesn't stop Tinge from utilizing a blindside lineup to support his teammate's entry. As soon as he peeks out of the smoke, he gets a quick scope on the Skye, but leaves him with 5 HP. But that doesn't come without a reward though, as this engagement secured the site for his team. Now, before getting settled on site though, Tens throws a gate crash towards the teleporter as a layer of confusion and a potential safety measure. He then holds elbow after noticing that the brim smoke is about to dissipate, and there he spots the enemy brimstone. After whiffing the shot, he backs away into garden and reloads his outlaw. Kaide gets picked off by the enemy Yoru, but their Raze trades it by taking out Jett. All of this was happening while Tens repositions toward hookah. This could have gone really badly because his teammates were getting picked off with him not being able to trade. Thankfully, their Raze eliminates the brimstone, and at this point, Tens finally calms that he's repositioning. This gives Raze the idea to play slow and buy the time for Tens to get a different angle. He sends another gate crash towards B long as he makes his way into hookah. Now, unfortunately, Raze gets picked off by Yoru, but at least Tens was already in hookah. Since the spike is planted open, he can easily spot it from where he is or play time as he sees fit. As soon as Yoru's body pops out, Tens gets the wallbang, granting them a well-deserved bonus round conversion. Oh, if only you didn't retire so soon. Last up is Sentinel's youngest superstar, Zekin. Even in casual, ranked games, Zekin never fails to prove why he deserves to play the Duelist role for Sentinels. And this round is an ultimate showcase of how he can be a menace to the enemy team, even without taking all the frags.
Cutting through.
Jump on box, jump on box. I have dart ready. I mean,
Send that.
Cypher here. Darting.
Surprise.
I'm netting, I'm netting.
Oh fuck.
Killed one.
Oh, one more, one more, one more.
He's netted, he's netted. Close.
Shock that, shock.
One enemy remaining.
You got Deagle full armor.
Found.
Shit, don't go past it. I thought it did.
Oh.
Wait. You're my Vandal. Two Vandals.
Amazing.
Nice.
As soon as Zekin makes his way near the orb, he sends a gate crash towards site. Since they're likely aware of Cypher's setup, he follows it up with a decoy to trigger the tripwire. Now, if you've played against a Cypher on Abyss, you know how painstakingly difficult it can be to take on a site where he has his setups. Be that as it may, Zekin easily overcomes this challenge with a ghost in his hand and absolutely no fear. Once his gate crash reached the front area of danger, he throws a blindside that activates simultaneously with the decoy, making contact with the tripwire. Basically, that's two utilities that attract attention and can mask the sound cue of his teleport. At that precise moment, Zekin TPs into sight, pushing the unsuspecting Cypher, who was about to check his camera. And just like that, the threat of Cypher's setup has been easily removed, just with Zekin's utilities alone. This allowed the rest of his team to run the site with ease, effectively taking complete control of the site. Zekin proceeds to plant the spike near the edge of the pit, then goes toward backside to support his teammates. He does a ground flash in case there are any peekers from B-Link and continues to push forward after his team takes out the Sova. Now at this point he's already feeling it and continues to press on with his ghost against the world. After noting Reyna's presence on the enemy spawn, he decides to throw a gate crash in that direction as a mini distraction while he runs it down. He runs and guns the Reyna, securing a bonus round conversion. His game plan absolutely proves just how much you can do with Yoru's utility, even if there's a noticeable gun difference. Jett is easily the most iconic agent in Valorant, with one of the flashiest toolkits in the entire game, as well as one of the few agents you start out with. It's no wonder players gravitate towards her. Now in this video, we're going to be highlighting what makes this Duelist so broken and how we can maximize her kit to the absolute fullest. By the time you're finished watching, you should have everything you need to master Jett and start climbing the ranks. So without a doubt, Tailwind is Jett's bread and butter when it comes to practically any scenario that she is in. This util alone is what makes Jett a speedy Gonzalez on the battlefield, dashing in and out of trouble anytime it happens. One moment she peeks and gets a pick, and on the next, she is gone like the wind. Tailwind is an easy get-out-of-jail-free card whenever you peek and force fights, providing a safe escape mechanism for you. It's also what you depend on to swiftly take space when executing a site push with your team. Now, since Tailwind is mostly used in unison with your other utilities, it's going to be crucial to make a short mental map on what you're planning to do for the next few seconds. Here's some example scenarios for you. Number 1, for attacking, where do I want to end up to take gunfights after creating space? Number 2, which direction do I dash into after peeking and attempting to pick someone off? Number 3, for an aggressive playstyle, do I dash forward to get the jump on the next agent after getting a pick? Well, it's best to exercise your mental mapping in order to play more comfortably with Jett. In time, this is going to become muscle memory, and your thought process is going to become more in sync with your actual movement. Now, there are so many more scenarios where the usage of Tailwind really matters most, but as you continue practicing, you're going to be able to utilize your dash much better and more accordingly. Just be mindful of the utility's pop-up timer since it doesn't necessarily activate immediately, and keep an eye on the duration of Tailwind. You wouldn't want to end up peeking a risky angle only to find out that your dash's timer is going to run out. Cloudburst is what makes Jett somewhat self-sufficient when it comes to isolating fights and denying space. You could think of it as like a mini controller feature in a fast-paced Duelist, which allows for a variety of plays that we're going to talk about here. Cloudburst versatility is absolutely unparalleled due to how you can easily control and deploy it. although we definitely do have to admit that it does need some practice to be able to pinpoint where the smoke lands, but once you master that, your life as Jett is going to be an absolute breeze. Now, the obvious use of Cloudburst is to have a makeshift smoke that denies space from common choke points, allowing you to push forward or isolate fights. However, you can also use it as an impromptu one-way to give you an advantage in duels. Just make sure to aim it against a surface high enough to only reveal the enemy's legs. Jett's Cloudburst also works great with a synchronized push or sight take with the team. For example, a usual play you can see from casual ranked games, and even in the pro scene, is when a Jett dashes to sight with a Cloudburst active on where they end up, while simultaneously having a teammate flash out of the smoke for them. It's a classic and common play, but it works almost every single time with proper execution. If you're also in a tight spot and caught unprepared for a duel, you could try looking down and activating your Cloudburst for a quick cover that could potentially save your neck from getting picked off. This could absolutely be really good to build up the habit of doing after landing kills in the open if your dash isn't available. It definitely does take a little bit of skill though, so hop on a custom game with your friends and practice that Cloudburst bending to be the next best airbender. Now, one of the most important things when playing Jett is you gotta have the confidence to win those duels. If you're just sitting in the back line and baiting your team the whole dang time, you might find it hard to rank up. Jett players are oftentimes some of the best fighters on the team, and you've got to be able to aim. And, well, if you're struggling with the shooting part, well, we've got you covered there. Over at SkillCapped, our Aim God Masterclass, it's designed to take you from noob to pro in as little as a few weeks. Our expert coaches have literally designed these courses to be stupid easy to follow to get any one of you climbing. And we're so confident, in fact, that we guarantee you're going to gain 500 RR, or we're just going to give you your money back. Now, if you're wondering where that would place you, just go over to our website at SkillCapped to check out our free rank calculator to figure out where you could be in a few weeks' time. And other than that, let's get into the next utility. Moving on to Jett's Updraft. Now, this utility is what can take a true Jett main to absolute greater heights, both literally and figuratively. Now, simply put, it allows you to boost yourself high to get into off angles and spots in the map that are usually unreachable without using a utility. But you can also use it in combination with your Tailwind for a swift and massive space taking during side executes. For instance, the combination of Tailwind, Cloudburst, and Updraft allows you to do plays like this on a Ascent B site. You might have seen this a couple of times from a bunch of VCT plays, and trust me when I say it works wonders for you and your team. Of course, practice does always make perfect though, and Jett isn't a one-trick pony kind of duelist. Combining Updraft, Cloudburst, and Tailwind equates to numerous plays and possibilities, especially when paired with your teammates' utilities. And as a quick pro tip here, remember to jump first before activating your Tailwind and Updraft. Now, while this little mechanic may not seem so substantial, it actually helps you get a bit more height into your updrafts and dashes to get better positioning. Now, once you've got the fundamentals of Jett down, don't be afraid to experiment and mix things up here. Playing Jett isn't only about speed, but it's also about being unpredictable. For instance, you can try playing a few rounds using shotguns even when playing attacking. Now, this is made possible by the consistent aerial movement Jett has with her utilities. And even though you're generally not going to be accurate with guns while mid-air, shotguns still have a great chance of hitting their mark as long as you're able to close the gap. Just remember to keep constant comms open with your team to help get everyone on the same page when executing a specific play. A Jett that can dash into sight and get picks with ease due to the supporting utilities of her teammates is going to be a true force to be reckoned with. Finally, we have Jett's go-to for eco rounds or a potential ace clutch clip. We have the Blade Storm. Think of it as a fully accurate one headshot, one kill utility that refreshes every time you pick someone off with it in a round. Since all it takes is a single shot to the head, this utility is more than capable of turning the tides on the fully equipped enemy team despite the gun diff. Oh, and when we say fully accurate, we mean 100%. Even as you move across the battlefield, you're going to find no movement error in Jett's Bladestorm, so long as your crosshair is right where it should be. That's why it's best to combine the ult with Jett's other utilities together with constant movement as you ninja your way throughout the round. I recommend practicing hitting your shots in the range while updrafting or gliding to get used to the mechanics. Think of Jett as a less chaotic Genji, focusing on kunai knives, dashes, and airtime. Now, if you're caught in a situation where you're up close and personal with an enemy, you can also right-click to shoot all 5 or remaining knives in a shotgun-like manner. Now, of course, in this manner of usage, we're going to have to diminish the accurate part, since the Bladestorm's right-click is going to be purely RNG. Nevertheless, though, it's a welcome variation that comes in handy for certain situations. Do take note that it's only recommended to use the right-click for close encounters. Otherwise, you're going to have little to no value with your Bladestorm. Now that we've seen the Jett fundamentals for playing this Daredevil Duelist, it's time to see the silver-haired menace in action. And what better way to analyze pro players playing Jett in ranked games than introducing our first entry of Demon 1 from Energy. Demon 1 played a nasty Jett back in 2023 where he won Valorant Champions with his former team, Evil Geniuses. Now, despite playing a flexi role for Energy, he still proves why he's one of the best Jett players around.
Oh, I got my whole computer optimized. Overclocked, tuned, everything. That took 8 hours to do.
Mark it fast. Come down. Let's go.
Where's the second smoke?
Up down on side. There's one more back side. Sniper back side.
No charges left. One enemy remaining.
No, 100! Minus 100!
At the start of the round, we can see a fast B execute from mid through market. Demon 1 immediately pops his ult to complement the rush game plan. His team tries to enter through market with Gecko's Dizzy, but it quickly gets destroyed. And while it didn't flash anyone at all, that's still info gathered based on where the bullet tracer came from. Demon 1 tries to capitalize quickly on this by dashing and updrafting simultaneously, but the enemy's already repositioned. Nevertheless, though, space has been taken, giving them a slight advantage in taking site. A little bit of a miscomm occurred as Demon 1 expected his teammate Clove to smoke the stairs, and as a result, he kept guarding that angle. Gecko and ISO fall victim to the Clove on site, but luckily Demon 1 gets to pick off the opping Neon to lessen the numbers disadvantage here. He then turns his attention towards the site and does a jump spot while gliding, allowing him to take down Clove. The enemy Clove pops their ult, but Demon 1 remains unfazed as he activates his dash and peeks towards back site, eliminating Cypher. As soon as Clove emerges from the ult, he dashes forward to catch him with their guard down, and his teammate Clove gets the pick on ISO, but the enemy Sova trades it out instantly. Unfortunately, Demon 1 whiffs the rest of his knives, but not before lowering Sova to 50 HP. And since Cypher was holding mid, the trade didn't come instantly. At this point, there is a bit of visible frustration from Demon 1 given how much he did to win the round. Now, if you're a Jett main or have played with top fragging Jetts before, the phrase, "what more do I have to do?" probably rings a bell with you, but the ends justify the means as Cypher successfully picks off the Sova, winning the chaotic round. Without Demon 1's quick thinking and reflexes here, things really just might have gone south the rest of that round. Next up, we have one of the W gaming kings from Paper Rex, Forsaken. And as I say that, you might already have an idea on how this Jett clip is going to turn out if you're a Paper Rex fan. Now, we all know this team has no shortage of aggressive and unorthodox plays, and surely Forsaken is no exception with a Jett. At the beginning of the round, we can see that his team is down by 7 points. Now, with that much lead, there's no better time than to cook up an aggressive push to try and shift that momentum.
Shooting mid.
Your fault. My ult.
Middling. Two middling. One more.
Spike down mid. No charges left. One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Flawless.
And that's exactly just what Forsaken had in mind. As soon as the barrier drops, he pushes toward the left of B main. Now take note that this is a force buy and he doesn't have any other util except for Tailwind. Thankfully, the strat paid off after a lone KJ gets caught by surprise and picked off instantly. Forsaken was able to capitalize on Vice's textbook bait on the entrance of B main, eliminating the enemy's only sentinel. Since he picked off a lone KJ instead of Jett or Reyna, he likely got the read on the enemy's 1-3-1 default play. Now, as a result, he decides to dash forward to potentially catch the enemies peeking mid from tiles, and in true spray and pray fashion, he was able to eliminate the bamboozled Clove and Sova, despite the numbers advantage. Now, while it's often not recommended to spray with a Vandal, we can see how Forsaken's crosshair placement and spray control were really on point here. This is what ultimately allowed him to even the odds. Now, for the final target, it's clear that the enemy Jett is in a tight spot, revealed and cornered in tiles. Again, Forsaken dashes forward to aggress and close the gap since he knows the Jett has an outlaw. At this point, it does get a little bit messy as the enemy Jett cloudbursts himself to change guns, while Forsaken spams the smoke. Even though the enemy was able to pick up a Vandal, Forsaken's up-close right-click with the classic is really what won the duel and the round. Now, do take note that even if Forsaken was taking all sorts of risks in this round, they were really all calculated risks. Even if he loses the duel, his teammates were already close enough for the pinch and the trade. And this is a prime example of what Jett can do aggressively with his utils, even without the support of teammate utilities. Now, that being said, don't be afraid to get all crazy and up in their faces from time to time, especially if you're confident and you're really feeling it. You never really know how much it can shift the momentum towards your team despite having a little bit of a high deficit. Last, but definitely not least, we have the king of Sentinels himself, TenZ. Long ago, in his early prime, we often see him dominating both in the pro and ranked scene as Jett. And while he played a flexi role in this year's season, plus recently retired, he proves to us that he still plays a menacing Jett. Now, right off the bat, we see that TenZ's team is at an early minor deficit with 0 out of 3 rounds won. He starts the round by holding the Sage wall boost angle from mid-bottom with an operator. As soon as he hears fast A from his teammates, TenZ decides to immediately rotate from mid. Oftentimes you hold the angle a little bit more in case there's a lurk, but in TenZ's situation, he needs an early rotate since he's using an op. And we all know how hard it can really be to retake with this weapon. Now, what's good and consistent about TenZ is that he's really always efficient with his comms.
One down. Blocking sight.
Good for a heal.
Us too.
I think he's on top. I'm almost sure he's on top.
Oh, he planted.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Blocking sight.
Close to me.
Nice.
Giving the team an idea of what he plans to do or what he is about to do. Here, he does do a semi-risky play of hiding in the smoke with an op, just trying to hold elbow if anyone peeks out. Luckily, he's using Jett, so he can easily escape with dash in case things get a little bit topsy-turvy. And with great timing here, he activates his dash just before peeking out of the smoke and picks off the Jett just seconds after peeking out. Instantly, right after that kill, he dashes out backwards to get cover and reposition. You can clearly see here how he's quick on his feet and decision-making as he immediately decides to reposition on top of the box with an updraft. What this does is it allowed him to spot the Omen from elbow, and since he's not ready to take that fight, he can easily hide off of the info that he gathered. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the kill and takes a bit of damage from the engagement. Nevertheless, he survives and drops down to rethink his next action. Here is a prime example of advanced cloudburst usage. He jumps and throws his smoke, maneuvering it towards elbow to block the Omen's vision. Thanks to Zellsis being able to tag Sage with his haunt, TenZ lands a pretty dang nasty shot on the Sage that's trying to jump away for his life. Now, in true fashion of TenZ proactivity, he quickly repositions toward A link for a different path in the retake. As the enemy plants the spike, we can see TenZ activating his dash again in case he engages in duel and needs a safety net escape. He spots the Cypher in elbow, and although TenZ was almost sprayed down, all it took was one shot from his op to win the fight. Now at this point, they know that Omen is on site since he planted the spike. Just watch carefully how he approaches this while inside the smoke. Since he has an op, he pings the spot on his minimap first to help him pre-aim the angle. Yes, Omen wasn't there, but imagine if he was. Then Tins might have actually gotten him despite the disadvantage. Tins then decides to quick peek the spike to gather info and potentially bait a contact from the Omen so his teammate can get the trade. Because of that, Omen's positioning gets revealed, and as a result of his body slightly protruding towards the smoke, Tins gets a quick scope on him for a massive 4K, and after a play like that, it's really hard not to get hyped and gain that momentum for the coming rounds thanks to Tins' masterful play with an op on Jett. Seeing how harmoniously the combo works makes me believe that Jett with an operator is as inseparable as Bonnie is to Clyde. So there's two things that are for certain in life. The first is that someday our great journey on this spinning rock in space is going to come to a bitter end. The second is that no matter when you queue in Valorant, you're always going to have a Reyna on your team. Oh man, she's one of the highest pick rate agents in the game consistently and has been named by the community to be the solo carry agent. Reyna is the agent you pick when you're going to put the team on your back and just go absolutely insane. So if you're guaranteed to have one on your team, well, it might as well be you. In this video today, we're going to be breaking down exactly how to play Reyna, what it is that makes a good Reyna, and how you can start hard carrying your matches. So by the end of this video, you're not only going to know how Reyna's kit all works together, but you'll also know how pros use it to outplay their opponents constantly. Reyna's dismiss has always been her bread and butter when it comes to wreaking havoc on the battlefield and cooking up stylish plays. Imagine having to deal with a Reyna who's supposedly surrounded but can get away scot-free by repositioning with invulnerability and insane movement speed after a single frag. That, my friends, is the power of the mighty dismiss. Contrary to popular belief of Reyna being a selfish agent, her dismiss actually opens plenty of possibilities and slick plays not just for you, but also for your teammates. For instance, bait and switch peeks become more viable with your teammates due to the massive ground Reyna is able to cover with her dismiss movement. You might also get more of a confidence boost when it comes to taking isolated fights since you're able to escape easily after winning the duel. Reyna's dismiss also gains more value for gathering info thanks to the safety net her movement speed provides. A good usage of Reyna's dismiss involves tactical planning and map awareness. You can incorporate some bunny hops or air strafing as well to maximize your dismiss movement speed and make it more difficult for the enemy to trace you. Remember that there's always a window of opportunity whenever you land a kill before you need to cast dismiss. Try not to get overly excited by using it immediately as soon as it appears every time. If you need to dodge a utility from the enemy, it's all a matter of waiting for the right timing before casting your dismiss. For example, you can dodge Raze's Showstopper, Neon's Relay Bolt, Breach's Fault Line, Aftershock, and Rolling Thunder, and so many more. If you're feeling sneaky, you can also use dismiss to phase through trap utilities such as Cypher's Trapwire, Killjoy's Alarm Bot and Turret, Chamber's Trademark, and even Deadlock's Wall. And as for Killjoy and Chamber's traps, you're going to need the invisibility effect Impress gives on dismiss. This is because their traps have a form of visual sensor that can still detect Reyna in her regular dismiss. Self-sufficiency is where Reyna shines the most, branding her as the solo carry duelist. The reason why she can play a bit more reckless than other duelists, whether she has teammates nearby or not, is because of her Devour ability. This piece of utility helps Reyna survive longer throughout the round, as long as she keeps getting frags or damage assists. Additionally, you can also refill your armor partly or in full thanks to the overheal effect. Just be reminded that if you take damage while using Devour, the healing process is going to be interrupted. The best way to use Devour is by making sure you're tucked in a nice and safe spot before activating the utility. If you're wide open while you're using Devour, you might just end up getting easily traded by the enemy. Also, even if you hide behind walls or smokes while healing, the animation of Devour is just going to give away your position and allow enemies to trace you with their crosshair. After successfully maxing out Devour's healing capabilities, you're going to have more longevity in a round regardless if the team has a healer or not. However, it is always ideal to gauge the situation if it's better to use a Dismiss instead of a Devour to make the most out of Reyna's kit. For instance, if you feel that the enemy team is closing in on you, it might be best to dismiss away and move to a spot where you can freely escape or hold a better angle on them. Clearly, you'd rather live longer with 10 HP than die while healing or be surrounded with full health but nowhere to go. By the way, if you're really looking to bring your Reyna game to the absolute next level, we've designed an additional course to this over at SkillCapped just for this video. In our course, we're going to be breaking down all the niche tricks that Reyna players use to maximize their value. Here, take a listen. The most obnoxious way to die as Reyna is getting caught while using Dismiss. Since it takes you a second to pull out your rifle after canceling Dismiss, if you get caught out during it, you'll pretty much be guaranteed to die. You can actually get out of this though. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, first, what you want to do is, as you're preparing to exit your Dismiss, jump off of a nearby ledge if you can. If there's no ledge nearby, you can just jump, but this works especially well if you can be falling for the entire duration of the cancel. By falling, you'll make it very difficult for your opponents to land a headshot as you exit your Dismiss, giving you time to pull out your weapon as they whiff. Now, do keep in mind, your sidearm also pulls out faster than your rifle, so if it's life or death and you're very close to the target, it might actually be better to pull out a classic or a shorty, since both of these pistols are very effective while jumping. This gives Reyna a great use case for the shorty, and you never know when it's going to save your life. Now, along with this one, we have 12 additional videos breaking down how you can bring your Reyna play to the absolute next level, not to mention access to all of our other courses on the side as well. Aim guides, movement guides, map guides. We've got them all. And not to mention, we offer a rank improvement guarantee. If you don't climb 5 whole divisions while actively using our service, you don't pay. This is our promise to you that our service works. So if you're interested in climbing this act, be sure to check it out using the link in the description below. Other than that, let's take a look at Reyna's Leer. Most of Reyna's utilities are solely dependent on getting frags. The one and only exception to this duelist mechanics of Reyna is her Leer. Now, in hindsight, it may not seem as powerful as other agents' blinding utilities, but really, in actuality, it provides way more value than we think. Reyna's Leer is a force to be reckoned with, so long as it's placed correctly or done in synergy with other teammates' utilities. If you're engaging in close fights, throwing your Leer directly on the ground is going to ensure that enemies nearby will either get nearsighted or have their crosshairs misplaced when you peek them. Leer also activates much faster when you throw it on the ground, since it collides with an obstruction, nearsighting enemies almost immediately. However, if you're planning to take long-ranged duels in open areas, a Leer thrown towards the sky is going to be your best bet there. You just have to make sure that there's no obstacles along the way that could potentially block your Leer from entering the opponent's line of sight. It's also a must to give your Leer a bit of time to bloom before peeking. Otherwise, you're going to get ahead of the near sight and potentially get killed before it activates. You also need to be aware of how close you are to your enemies whenever you do a close engagement Leer. In principle, Leer works as a near sight, so the enemy can still see you if you're too close to their field of vision. Despite the common notion that Reyna thrives on playing solo, her blind provides a lot of value when paired with other agents' utilities. For instance, Gecko's Dizzy can be easily destroyed if the opponent has decent awareness and reaction time. However, if you pair this with a Reyna Leer, the odds of them getting flashed drastically increases. Same goes with other version of blinding utilities like Skies, Breaches, KOs, and all other agents with flash utilities. Generally, you can turn away to dodge them, but if there's a Reyna Leer mixed into the equation, you're going to be able to bamboozle them even more. Now, due to the value Reyna's Leer provides to a team, this makes her much more suitable as an entry fragger with her team rather than as a lurker. In case you need to mask info gathering utilities such as Sky's Dog or Sova's Drone, you can also use your Leer to ensure that the enemy will have a hard time destroying them. Finally, Reyna's ultimate is what makes her seem like a raid boss fight whenever she pops it. If there's anything in her kit that's going to turn the tides on a 1v5 scenario, it's definitely her Impress. As soon as you activate her ultimate, you'll have until the end of the round or until you get killed to be an unstoppable force on the battlefield. You'll have unlimited soul orbs to use for dismiss each time you get a frag or a damage assist, allowing you to continually reposition with insane movement speed. Activating Dismiss while in Impress form will also give you invisibility throughout the Dismiss duration, causing more confusion when you reposition. Now on top of that, you'll also get healed instantly after every single kill, combining the strength of Dismiss and Devour simultaneously. You won't have to worry about the Impress timer running out since you can already activate it as soon as the round starts, giving your agent high value as long as you're still alive. However, waiting for the right opportunity in a round before popping your ult is also another way of maximizing Impress. One of the best example situations for this is when you're the last person standing and you're still up against 3 or more enemies. Nothing cooks up a Reyna highlight better than a 1v5 clutch while in Impress form. So to sum it all up, always use your best judgment before activating your ult. And once you do, don't be afraid to be a little bit aggressive. Let your inner Reyna main loose and get that 30 bomb on ranked. Now, let's go over some of the craziest Reyna clips from various Valorant streamers around the world. Starting out with a clip of Zekin being as nonchalant as ever, dropping a 4K on the enemy team with little effort.
Can we just walk in, bro? Can we just walk in?
Oh shit, yeah. I heard us running.
We made noise, I think, but
It's
yeah.
fine. We can still walk.
Wait, should I wall up and wall down?
No, just face.
Okay.
Embarrassing. Perfect accuracy.
I
I
just
can
spam
get fly,
for
I
more
can get fly, I
range.
can get fly.
Spikes down.
No lie,
Whole thing.
Alarm bot
Could be close.
placing swarm grenade.
I'm gonna go top right.
They have KJO as well.
KJ snow.
Two snow.
Both snow.
Just no, I'm chilling.
One enemy
Okay,
remaining.
Jill.
I'm chilling, I'm officially chilling.
You're chilling? Me too, brother. Yeah, I fucking lied. I'm not gonna lie.
Placing swarm grenade.
In this round, we can see that Zekin's team were put at an early disadvantage when their Jett died at mid. However, Zekin took advantage of the commotion Jett caused by calling to slowly creep up the B site without noise or using any utilities. Now at this point, they've been able to clear the entire B main as well as behind yellow. Based on Zekin's read of the situation, he likely assumed no one was watching from yellow since he heard the enemy KJ throwing a molly near the default plant spot. The entanglement on mid also contributed to a possible rotation from the enemy team. Now, while this definitely was a gamble play, it surely paid off as Zekin got the better of the unsuspecting enemy Jett. Now, as soon as he notices an enemy peeking him from Snowman, he immediately activates Dismiss to find cover. Notice how he doesn't activate the Dismiss immediately, but rather waits for a threat to appear before using it. This was a very smart decision and perfect usage of Dismiss since his crosshair placement isn't prepared for the snowman angle. Therefore, instead of forcing a fight by realigning his crosshairs while being exposed, he uses Dismiss to keep him safe as he resets for a new duel. After repositioning, he tries to fight from a different angle, but unfortunately, his shots didn't land and 2 of his teammates also die in the process. However, since he has a good hiding spot from the right side of yellow, he can easily duck and reset or reposition. Once again, he changes angle by peeking from the left side of yellow, but now, since it's a 2v3, he decides to pop his ult to increase his survivability. You can also see the similar thought process his teammate Killjoy has with the activation of Lockdown, providing the enemy team pressure and sight control. Zekin then proceeds to hold Snowman, waiting for an enemy to peek. After getting a kill, he immediately activates Dismiss once again to find cover, allowing himself to reposition quickly and safely. Now from the right side of yellow, he decides to throw a Leer up front to mess with the enemy's crosshair before peeking. This results into a successful pick on Killjoy, gaining back the advantage onto Zekin's team. Now, in this scenario, they can practically just play time and they would have already won the round. However, since Zekin's already feeling it, he decides to finish the last player standing by throwing a Leer before taking the duel. While the round was winnable for the enemy team despite their scuffed bye, Zekin's decision-making paired with his teammate Killjoy's presence helped them dominate the round. On the next clip, Fnatic's very own Durka shows us how it's done with his Reyna movement and relentless repeaks.
He revealed it.
Have we seen Jett?
Yes. He was on the right. They forgot about him.
Durka starts off the round by holding an off angle on top of 410. As Clove's smokes start to dissipate, he switches his angle from belt to nest in B main. As soon as he spots a pixel of a head on B main, he goes for the shot, dealing massive damage to KO. However, since he's only using a bulldog, he was only able to deal 115 damage to the head. Now nonetheless, this damage is massive enough to give their team a slight edge. Now, since the Dink gave his position away, he immediately decides to reposition to pipes. He was also able to mask his repositioning perfectly by shooting a single bullet as soon as he lands on top of pipes. Now, while this may seem counterproductive to do this gives him the element of surprise since they potentially are going to miss the audio cue of him jumping onto pipes. As soon as the enemy team starts to push up, he throws a leer behind him, ensuring that it'll near sight the remaining 3 players. Immediately after the leer blooms, he jumps on the topmost part of pipes, allowing for easy kills on the unsuspecting opponents. While he was only able to pick the killjoy off, his action caused the enemy team to fall back a little. Since he also ran out of bullets on his big dog, he tried to hold multiple angles below using his sheriff. Now this looks a bit goofy here because he does end up whiffing, but in reality, it's tough to fight from angles like this, where enemies can just peek from anywhere. Luckily, as Reyna, we've got a get out of jail free card in our pocket. Since the Gecko peek caught him off guard, he decides to use Dismiss at the last minute, allowing him to totally reset. He then throws another leer to try and gain advantage of the duel before re-peeking the enemy. As seen from the clip, since the angle of the leer is a bit off from Gecko's perspective, he doesn't get nearsighted. Durka was also unable to land his sheriff shot, so he decides to reset back to pipes again. This time, he reloads both his sheriff and bulldog to prepare for the next engagement. As soon as he sees his teammates push forward to overwhelm the enemy, he jumps back into the fight, knowing they can't deal with his whole team at once. As a result, Jett and Gecko were too preoccupied to notice Durka re-peeking the angle from pipes. Finally, Durka lands a nice spray transfer, successfully eliminating Jett and Gecko. And now, while this play may not always work in every single scenario, his strategic resilience in re-peeking from pipes became unexpected. Durka tops the round off by casually just joking around that the enemy team forgot about him. Here's a totally nasty and clean clip of Kami abusing Reyna's dismiss capabilities to the fullest, annihilating all enemies and securing the round.
Whoa. Oh my god!
One enemy remaining. My ult's ready.
In this crazy and dominating round, Kami gets his first pick from on top of pipes. The enemy was completely unaware of Kami's positioning due to his silent jump towards pipes. Now, as a quick pro tip here, silent jumps are very useful for unsuspected positionings. You can do this by crouch jumping, then letting go of the crouch button before you land, or by pressing shift the moment you press your jump key. Now, back to Kami. His unsuspected positioning, paired with his teammates' simultaneous push towards A main, was more than enough to put the enemy Reyna in an uncomfortable spot. And thus, she gets to be the first blood. After the first kill, notice how Kami jumps on the topmost part of pipes before activating Dismiss. The movement speed Dismiss provides, paired with Kami's air strafing and positioning, allowed him to reposition seamlessly on top of 410. While the enemy Sova shot first, he was still caught off guard by Kami's positioning. And as a result, Kami gets the better of Sova. This frag allows him to reposition towards the top of screens. You can already see how much ground the Dismiss movement speed helps cover, given how far 410 is from the top of screens. And since the repositioning was both unexpected and seamless, the enemy Phoenix right below screens had zero idea. I mean, how often do you really have attackers jumping over top of screens like this? At this point, Kami starts to overheat as he continues to push towards mid, hunting the rest of the enemy team. Now, normally, if you have numbers advantage like this, you don't want to keep pushing, but this play is just too good to not keep going. He gets a clean shot on Killjoy, who wide swings him at mid, then finally takes his ace by eliminating Viper right at their spawn. Kami's insane repositioning and movement skills are the key elements in this round, which greatly complemented Reyna's dismiss. The off angles were perfectly taken advantage of, so much so that he didn't have to use a single charge of Leer. This goes to show that nothing beats a Reyna player who's locked in and ready to hunt. Have you ever noticed that even if you've played Valorant for a while now, Phoenix is always going to have a place just right in your heart there, right? I don't know if it's just me, but during my early stages in the game, just kind of felt like this agent was one of those video game characters beginner players get attached to. And no matter how much time has passed, it's always fun picking him up again and just seeing what happens. Now, apart from the nostalgia, Phoenix has become a more powerful agent as the game progresses. And what I believe to be the cherry on top here is that we now have a flash that can regenerate after 2 kills. So, to kick this ultimate Phoenix guide off, let's take a look at some essential curveball mechanics that you should be using. At first, you would think that Phoenix's flash is pretty basic, but its trajectory is what makes it unique and complex simultaneously. As the name implies, it travels in a curved direction, thus highlighting 3 essential factors: positioning, movement, and the surface it bounces on. Now, I'm sure you guys already know the basic way of making the flash curve to the left or the right. But one of the curveball mechanics that allowed me to catch enemies off guard more often is the reverse flash. Basically, you just throw your flash in the opposite direction of where you're peeking. Since it activates simultaneously with your peek, your enemy will either get flashed or they're going to turn away, being completely vulnerable for your peek. Another advanced curveball mechanic is what we like to call the bank flash. All you need to do is bounce your flash to the wall in front of you. And do take note here that it has to be a flat surface. If you're peeking to the left, right-click the curveball into the wall. If to the right, then use left-click. This curveball tech basically makes it so your flash is going to act like a pop flash, which is almost always unavoidable. Just make sure that you're at close distance to the wall so it's going to pop behind you. Oh, and do let your teammates know if you're going to be doing this to avoid blinding them. As for other situations, just get creative here. Use it upwards through windows or downwards through smokes. The more you mix things up, the better your chances of fully blinding your enemies. Here's a simple adjustment Zekin did on the curveball, which easily allowed him to drop 4 heads on this quick round.
I have contact from me, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna flash up you.
B. Hitting.
Spike down B. 1 enemy remaining.
Nice.
Flawless.
That could have been a clip if I had a gun that wasn't a stinger.
And all he did was aim his flash higher than the usual positioning. Since you would expect them to hold a head-level crosshair placement, the flash is going to go above their heads, making it less predictable and more difficult to dodge. Now, as you can see, Zekin finds 4 helpless players lined up against the wall, dropping like flies. Easy kills, easy round. Another advanced curveball tech comes from Razu's creative floor bounce flash on B-site and Fracture.
Spike down B. 10 seconds left. Clutch.
After being left in a 1v3 situation, he picks off the remaining enemies with absolute ease. The first flash he does from Generator was a basic one that got chamber picked off. However, the juicy part is when he repositioned behind the box on B-side and made his curveball bounce on the floor for a nasty pop flash. The enemy Raze had no chance at all, despite pre-aiming with an op. And thus, that's another round secured with the help of Phoenix's super high-level tactics. Phoenix's Blaze allows him to control and take space more efficiently. It functions like a shortened harbor wall that can be bent into the direction of your choosing. And with it, you can isolate areas while giving you a nice healing buff that goes on for a few seconds even after leaving its area of effect. Now, most low elo players tend to use this as a healing utility in combo with hot hands. However, its true value lies in how you control the space and combine it with your curveball. Take a look at how Sam utilizes his Blaze in this clip.
Keep going. Nice.
His first high flash blinded 2 enemies, giving him 2 easy kills. After repositioning to the right, he throws his wall to cover the entrance to B main. He then angles himself by slightly leaning to the left to create a perfect pop flash through the blaze. And with a few more crispy headshots, a well-deserved ace clears the round. Another great way of utilizing Blaze is by throwing it through walls to block checkpoints safely without exposing yourself.
Going up.
He just has to mark it.
Joke's over. You're dead. They're super dead. My ultimate's ready.
One enemy remaining.
In this mid-control strat from Kami and his team, he throws his wall from tiles to cover mid-bottom after picking the Sova off. This allowed him to sneak towards the cubby undetected, while the Phoenix ult passes him by. Since Clove was under the assumption that the immediate area was clear, Kami got the no-scope on Clove. All that's left is to wait for the helpless Phoenix's body to return so that Kami can collect his second bounty. So to sum it up, Phoenix's Blaze has many more applications thanks to the new wall tech. Just do be careful not to hug the wall while directly facing it when throwing your Blaze. Apparently, it leaves gap when you do that.
Going up.
Walled them off.
Wait, the wall's that?
It's been like that, brother.
Watch your eyes. Watch your eyes.
One enemy remaining.
Yeah, I've been talking about it with chat. The wall apparently has a big gap every time you throw it, like through the wall. Because then you can't even throw lurk balls.
Even on the mini-map, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I can swing with this. Like, you know?
However, you can remedy this by standing back a few steps from the wall before activating Blaze. Phoenix is one of the few duelists who has a Molly utility, and despite being a commonly used healing tool, it's quite useful for clearing corners, denying space, and easy lineups. It's a pretty straightforward Molly that either sustains you or damages your opponent. One of the best and most popular Phoenix lineups is the curveball hot hands combo on Ascent A main. Just stand on this edge by the stairs and aim your Molly slightly above this corner. Wait a second or two after the barrier drops, then throw your Molly, followed by an immediate flash on A main. By instinct, blinded enemies are going to keep moving left as their HP burns away. But if you want a universal hot hands tech that you can use almost any time, then I've got one for you here. First up, notice the sound circles that appear on the minimap whenever you make noise. That's going to be your reference point when pinging a spot. Let's say you want to deny the planter on A default. Ping the spot and do a jumping throw while running as soon as the sound circle meets the ping on your map. This is going to land perfectly on that pinged area. Here's another example of that same tech but on C site. This is going to always work as long as there's no obstructions in your Molly's path. Phoenix's ultimate Run It Back is basically an upgraded version of Skydog or Sova Drone. It allows Phoenix to gather info, take space, and clear areas while being able to safely pick off enemies as well. The only drawback is that he's going to be completely vulnerable for a brief period upon returning to his body, which is why it's an absolute must to use it with caution when alone, or better yet, just have a buddy to cover you.
Safe is clear, safe is clear.
Right
Yo,
here.
yo, bomb.
Oh, I got 2! Nah, no way, bro.
30 seconds left. One enemy remaining.
Spawn.
Back like I never left.
Again, spot.
In this nasty Kami clip, we see him capitalizing on his ult with 2 kills before getting his double picked off. On top of the 2 kills, he was able to create an opening for his team to control the site and plant the spike. Now, as a bonus tech that can get you out of sticky situations, Run It Back can also be used to dodge Deadlock's Annihilation and ISO's Kill Contract. Just time it well with the activation of these ults, and you're gonna get to live another day.
Are you a fast type player and don't feel like any of the agents fit your pace? What if I told you there was an agent designed just for you? Well, there actually is, and her name is Neon. Neon is built for speed, aggression, and outmaneuvering your opponents. She's basically just a human race car. Her abilities let you zip around the map, take control of engagements, and frag out like you never have before. In this video, we're going to be showing you how you can master Neon's crazy fast movement and take her even into the higher ranks of Radiant. From her relay bolt to her ultimate, we are going to be breaking down how each ability works and how you can use them to dominate the battlefield. So whether you're tired of getting picked off while pushing, or you just can't seem to win those crucial 1v1s, this guide is going to absolutely transform your gameplay. Stick around and let's get right into it. Starting out with Neon's Q ability, Relay Bolt. It's basically just a stun that bounces. Neon's Relay Bolt is excellent for defaulting at the start of rounds and for fighting for space. Many pro players will use this ability early on in the round to deny the attackers or defenders from scaling up, giving your team the protection that you need as you move forward. Imagine you're playing on Lotus and defending A site. At the start of the round, you can fire the Relay Bolt towards a lobby to slow down the attacker's push. This bolt will ricochet off of the walls, covering a wider area and stunning any enemies who try to rush in. This gives your team the precious seconds that they need to take control of rubble and set up defense, or even find a few picks. Another scenario is on Ascent when you're attacking on A site. Fire the Relay Bolt through A main towards the entrance of A site, and this will create a stun zone that will catch defenders off guard as they try to peek into A main. Your team can use this opportunity now to push in safely, knowing that anyone caught in the bolt's path will temporarily be incapacitated. Relay Bolt isn't just for the start of the round though. Mid-round, you can use this to clear tight spaces, or as an ace in the hole against enemies who are stuck in corners. Say you're trying to take control of C site on Haven. You could shoot the Relay Bolt towards backside of platform or garage. This ricochet will stun anyone hiding there, making it easier for your team to push up and secure the area. Remember, the key with Relay Bolt is to think about angles and ricochets. You want to fire it in a way that maximizes its coverage while not leaving you exposed. A nice technique that you can also use is, of course, jump peeking before throwing it. This way, if you need to peek out into the open to land a stun, you're not completely risking your life. One of the best ways to master Relay Bolt is to practice different angles in custom games. Try out various spots on each map and see how the bolt bounces and covers areas. This will give you a better understanding of where to position yourself and how to use Relay Bolt effectively during your matches. Next up, we have High Gear, Neon's Sprint. This is by far her most iconic ability and is fantastic for a multitude of reasons. One of the best parts about it is its slide. This ability allows you to quickly peek angles while still being fully accurate. Having the ability to shoot accurately while moving is something that very few agents have in Valorant, so you really want to take advantage of this as Neon. Primarily, you want to use your slide to break players' crosshair placement. Focus on sliding towards cover if you can, so you're not just wide out in the open, and think of where players will be on site and how you can isolate your fights. Remember, you could slide in any direction by first jumping and then tapping that direction with slide as soon as you land. So if I want to slide backwards, I sprint forwards, jump, and then as soon as I land, I tap S and right click. Abusing this, you can make your movement super unpredictable. Another great thing that you can do is combo your slide with Relay Bolt to quickly close the gap on your stunned targets. Just make sure not to slide right into the target, but rather to the side of them, because it will make you much harder to track in one tap. Just as a general rule, you don't really want to ever run directly at people, otherwise it makes you super easy to track. Instead, bunny hopping is an excellent tool to mix it up a bit. One of the best ways to bunny hop is actually binding your jump key to scroll wheel, so that way you can jump every single time that you hit the ground immediately. Now let's combo High Gear with our Relay Bolt strat on Haven though. Notice how you can use that same Relay Bolt towards garage and then immediately run in using High Gear and slide toward cover on site. This not only gives you an opening on the player that we stun, but it also isolates us effectively from any players on back site. This is a great entry method that you'll see a lot of top players pull off. Use your speed and slide to quickly get towards cover, and then you can isolate your fights on site. Now beyond this, the obvious use for High Gear is that it's also a great tool for rotating. You'll basically be able to use this constantly throughout the round, so you're really hard to keep track of for the opposing team. If you land a kill, consider repositioning to the other side of the map to keep them on their toes. In combat though, the key with High Gear is to keep your movement unpredictable and use your slide to break your opponent's ankles as you cross choke points. You're also able to slide twice on the current patch, which gets pretty crazy. You can even slide back and forth seamlessly while being fully accurate. As you can imagine, this ability can get pretty ridiculous when in the right hands, as you can see here.
Holy fuck.
One enemy remaining.
Fastlane really brings her whole kit together, making her an incredibly versatile, aggressive agent. We've all experienced what it feels like to try an entry on Duelist only to realize there are no smokes down. This ability allows you to create two parallel walls of electricity that block vision, so your entries will always be protected if you need it. One of the best ways to use Fastlane is to create safe pathways for your team to push in or retreat. A good example of this is attacking on A site on Bind. Notice how just one Fastlane makes it incredibly difficult for the defenders to stop you from getting into U-Haul. You could also use this to just get out of hairy situations. If you're ever stuck in a corner, throw that sucker down and get out of there. Fastlane is not just for offense though, it can be a lifesaver on defense as well. If you're holding B site on Ascent and you hear a rush coming, for example, Then you can activate fast lane to block the vision and buy time for your team to rotate over and set up a crossfire. It's not the best smoke and it doesn't last the longest, but still most players don't want to just push through it. Remember, fast lane can also be used just to fake present. You don't need to full send it through the smokes every single time that it goes up. Oftentimes it's just good to throw it out and wait. Sometimes enemies will just try to swing the smoke and give you a free kill. Fast lane is just also great because it really brings her whole kit together. Use fast lane to close the distance, fire a relay bolt off the wall, and then use high gear to slide in and grab the kill. Just be careful because sometimes fast lane isn't great for your team. It often lets enemies get close towards the wall and catch your teammates off guard. You normally don't want to throw this ability down if your team has an advantage in the round already, or if you do, you want to throw it more off to the side so that it doesn't affect them much. Remember, smokes are neutral utility, and your enemies can play around them just as much as you can. So just be conscious that if you are throwing down your wall, your team actually wants or needs it. Last but not least, we have Neon's ultimate, Overdrive. There's not a lot to say with this ultimate. It basically is just used as an eco weapon, similar to how you might use Jett knives. If your team ever doesn't have money to buy, this is a great round to pop Overdrive and potentially grab a few kills. One of the biggest strengths of Overdrive though is again its accuracy while moving, especially at close to mid ranges. It's fully accurate on the move, so you pretty much always want to be moving. Unfortunately, it cannot kill your opponents in one hit, which is the main limitation of the ability. But rather than that, it's actually pretty nice. One of the unique features of Overdrive is the slide refresh. When you activate Overdrive, as well as every kill that you get afterwards will refresh your slide. This allows you to do some pretty crazy slide tech whenever your ultimate is available. For example, check out this kill as the Neon player first slides around the corner, activates their ultimate, and then slides again immediately. They're able to slide way further than their opponent expects, easily securing the kill. This also makes it possible to chain kills together, sliding between each one to avoid being an easy target for trade. When used correctly, Overdrive can easily turn the tide of a round in your favor, giving you the firepower and mobility to outmaneuver and outgun your opponents. For the most part with Overdrive, what you really want to practice is your movement and being hard to hit. Again, you never want to be running straight at targets, try to curve around them using your movement speed to your advantage. With these strategies, you'll master Neon's ultimate ability and become a true powerhouse in your matches. Now let's take a look at a few clips from pro players on Neon and get a glimpse of what the playstyle looks like. For starters, we're going to be taking a look at Miniboo. He is a professional player for Team Heretics and one of the best Neons that we could take a look at. He starts off the round aggressing into B main on Lotus, but at the same time, you'll notice his teammate picks off the enemy breach, peeking mound on C. This is a bit peculiar. Normally breaches don't play alone, so we still want to be kind of cautious. That's why you'll see when Miniboo opens the door to retrieve the gun, he throws out his fast lane to protect himself. Quickly, Miniboo retrieves the outlaw and then walks back towards his team, keeping an eye out for anybody looking to pick him off for this play. Sure enough, Chamber comes peeking out from the corner right into his crosshair. Miniboo lands his first kill in this round, and then off the back of these two picks, it's very likely that C site is open for the taking. He quickly uses high gear to take the site, and then take note of how he uses this extra movement speed to jump spot spawn safely. This is a common technique that you'll see on Neon, as jump spotting with high gear basically makes it impossible for any human player to land a headshot onto you. After jump spotting a few times, the enemy Fade ults, so Miniboo backs up and holds a tight angle towards pillar with his outlaw. Notice how after the Fade ultimate hits him, Miniboo now invests his relay bolt to stop any sort of forward aggression from the defenders. This is a common tactic referred to as trading utility, and it's one of the best ways to know when it's time to use your relay bolt. If you see some sort of flash or stun coming out from the enemies, that is your cue that they are about to push. So when you trade your relay bolt effectively, it cancels out that piece of utility and makes it so they can't push through. Shortly after this though, it is time to fight. Miniboo holds the angle with his outlaw, landing his second kill, and then finishes off the low HP target with the sheriff for the third. All in all, a pretty textbook round for Miniboo. Next up, we have a round from a bit earlier in the game. This time around, he's going to be pushing out on defense using his ultimate. First, take note of this super wide angle that he slides into at the start of the round. As an attacker, this is way earlier than you expect to see the enemy. So much so that notice how the enemy chamber completely misses his op shot as he peeks. He's expecting to see an enemy right here, but instead, because Miniboo swung out so wide, he's seeing him right here. As Chamber misses this though, notice how Miniboo immediately throws out a relay bolt to stop any sort of trade and uses his second dash to slide through the Omen one way. Not only that, but note how he also activates his overdrive, refreshing his slide again and combos that with the first slide. This effectively lets him double slide past the Omen smoke, covering some crazy distance. Also, something worth noting is the crazy support that he's getting from his Omen. He's got a Paranoia here to assist the push, and Omen is even using Shrouded Step to keep up with his movement speed. After clearing the smoke and not seeing anyone, it's pretty clear that the enemy team is entering onto B, so Minibu keeps up his push, popping fast lane once again to give him cover as he pushes through another choke point. You'll notice he exits fast lane a bit more towards the middle, making it not super easy for any players to hold this smoke. And then he combos this push with bunny hopping to make sure that he's not even going to get instant headshot while coming out. Sure enough, he clears the smoke and is able to jump around the corner into the enemy chamber once again, this time landing the kill. Now, you're not even fully accurate with overdrive while jumping, but when you're in the target's face like this, it really doesn't matter. From here, he continues his fast flank, completely catching the enemy team off guard as they're trying to set up on B, landing a second and third kill. Once again though, it's the small details that really matter. Take a look at the second kill, how when he rounds this corner, he's not just running directly into the fade. Instead, he's curving around her, making it super difficult for her to land this shot. If he just ran straight into the corner here, it's very possible that fade lands a lucky headshot, but because he's precise with his movement, it makes him nearly impossible to take out. Finally, as his slide has refreshed off of the 2 kills, he quickly slides into the enemy omen smoke, looking for a 4th kill, only to get traded out by his fade. I wouldn't say this round is textbooked, but it really showcases some of the little details that go into Neon players' strategies and how you can cover a ton of ground quickly and safely. Finally, for our third round, you can clearly see how good Neon is at clearing choke points when paired with the right utility. As we mentioned earlier, her fast lane is great because it can completely split up a choke, but also her slide is just incredible because she can slide right past any sort of defender utility that they put in her way. Take for example here the enemy one way on A main. Pure X Forsaken calls for his omen to paranoia the A main orb from tiles, and then with this blind he slides right past the one way. Abusing the moving accuracy while sliding, it makes for the easiest kill in the world on the enemy Sova. There's literally nowhere for him to go. This is the sort of utility you want to get comfortable calling for when playing Neon. Then as the round progresses, notice how he sets up behind the enemy one way once again. Now this one isn't specific to Neon, but it's just a really nice showcase of the timing on his end. Forsaken sees that his Sova dart has just timed out and waits a couple seconds to give the enemy team time to scale up. He knows they need to retake site, so they're going to want to move relatively quickly. After waiting for just a few seconds, his swing is able to catch the perfect timing of the enemies so that they're looking towards site, getting ready to fight his team. Notice how he takes this contact literally the moment that the enemy Cypher has dropped down and is ready to peek, finding himself a juicy triple kill in the round and an easy round win. As you can see, the best Neon players aren't just good aimers, but they're also bold and know when they should push and when they should hold back.
ISO is full of strengths, but like other agents, there are some weaknesses to be aware of. When drafting up your team in ranked, it is important to note that although ISO is a duelist, he has no movement related abilities. This is why I typically recommend that you pair him with another duelist who can dash in, such as Jett or Neon for example. But then why pick ISO? ISO has some of the best solo carry potential in the game, with abilities such as his shield which can be reset every kill, alongside an ultimate which practically removes an enemy from almost anywhere. The pressure ISO can cause in a game is unmatched. And if aim is your strong suit, it's a must pick for climbing. And if aim isn't your strong suit, that's kind of a problem, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and if you can't aim, you're going to lose a lot of games. Luckily, that's all an easy fix. Over the last 5 years, we've studied exactly what it takes to make a good aimer, and how literally anyone can replicate what the pros do to achieve immortal level aim. That is why we've created 3 courses dedicated to helping you improve your aim. First, we have our Aim God Masterclass, which is an hour-long course designed to teach you literally everything there is to know about the fundamentals of aiming. But along with that, we also have our Spider Method course and our Calm Aim course, designed to hone your skills and push you to those high levels that you might be looking to achieve. The best part is, we're so confident we can help you climb, we even offer a rank up guarantee, meaning if you don't climb, you don't pay. That's our promise to you that you're getting what you paid for. So if you're really looking to climb this act, I highly recommend checking out SkillCapped using the link below, and other than that, let's get into ISO's kit. Undercut is one of his strongest ways of creating pressure. When using this ability, ISO will prepare to throw a projectile that suppresses and places all enemies hit in a fragile state. This means not only can you weaken an enemy, making them vulnerable like a Viper Molly, but you can cancel their ability usage like a KO knife. Like all of his kit, by pressing the key for Undercut, the ability won't instantly be sent out but instead equipped in ISO's hand ready to be placed. This ability is fantastic for pushes and scaring enemy defenders on attack. You want to try be smart when using this ability. For example, when pushing A on Haven, players typically sit graffiti or back tight. Since it weakens enemies, they'll be easier targets to kill, and when combined with a movement duelist who can dash on them, the combo is guaranteed to create trouble for defenders. Here is an in-game example from TENS. He notices where 2 players are and right before swinging uses Undercut to place the enemies in a vulnerable state, allowing him to kill Jett in just a few bullets. When you get hit by this ability, you're almost certainly going to die. As for defending, it's just as useful for retakes and delaying pushes. Try weaken key areas you think players are hiding in, or throw it aggressively to create some delay. If I know a player is holding me close, I'm going to weaken them every time before swinging. Also try keep in mind that being able to weaken enemies sparks combo opportunities with other agents. If I hear lots of steps rushing towards my site, I can throw my undercut, allowing a Sova ultimate to kill them with one hit. Similarly, you can throw it with a Raze grenade or even Teo missiles. I'm sure you get the idea. Contingency is the most simple part of his kit. ISO can place an indestructible wall blocking all bullets and sources of damage. When pressing the ability, similar to the rest of his kit, you can decide where to place the wall. The wall is great for creating space and blocking enemy sightlines, either slowing attackers or making it easier to enter sight. It also has an alternate fire which sends the wall at half speed, creating a greater depth of play. I typically recommend to use this ability to block common angles which defenders or attackers are likely to peek from. Another fantastic use of the wall would be to travel closely behind it, allowing you to safely scale up and take some space. Here is an example of Demon 1 scaling behind the wall to retake B's side.
I can flash side.
Stopping fire. One sub in.
Another great example of this will be shown later in the video alongside more of his abilities. A less common but also fantastic use for this ability is on defense when trying to defuse a spike. An example would be if the final enemy in an intense situation is hiding C long, waiting for the spike to be tapped. Upon hearing the spike get tapped, they will likely jiggle the angle or swing to try secure the round. To counter this, I can project my wall towards C long and stick the defuse, with the wall preventing all of their bullets from landing on me. As a result, I defuse safely and win the round. If they choose to swing through the wall, I almost certainly have a free kill. You can also apply this in a 2 vs 1 situation, by providing a wall for your teammate to defuse and holding the enemy yourself. Double tap may possibly be the reason why some ISO players can so easily take over an entire game. Upon pressing double tap, a timer will appear on your screen and you'll gain a shield. This shield will soak up the first source of damage you receive, from a classic bullet to a Raze rocket. Yes, even a Raze rocket. The timer represents a period in which ISO can kill an enemy to generate an orb. By shooting this orb, ISO can refresh not only the timer but his shield. Enemies can also shoot this orb to deny your refresh, so be quick. An advanced tip for some players would be to not always shoot the energy orb immediately, as demonstrated here by Cloud9 Oxy. Most likely in this situation, if he had shot the first energy orb, despite gaining another shield, he would have probably died. Evidently, this ability allows for crazy snowball potential and opportunity to take over an entire round. So make sure you focus and aim your best with this ability active. Something to note, the shield presents a loud audio cue alerting nearby enemies that your shield is up and more than likely about to head their way. As a result, avoid using double tap on a flank or lurk, as it will quickly ruin all that time you spent sneaking around. You typically want to activate the shield upon entering a site, but not too early as the audio cue will give this away, or simply to take on a 1 vs 1, increasing your odds of coming out on top. Here is an example of pro player Demon 1 using the ability to the full extent.
Spike down B. One enemy remaining.
It was best in the situation to avoid activating the shield immediately to not reveal his play. He then swings, showcasing a fantastic display of gun skill, isolating 1v1s, allowing him to take each fight on with a shield and refreshing it for the next enemy. Lastly, the shield also plays a large role when using his ultimate, which we will cover in just a moment. Now let's take a look at his ultimate kill contract. This ultimate is exceptional for creating space and picking off the enemy team. Make sure to keep watching as there is a fun interaction I'll cover at the end, not even most high level players are aware of. By pressing the ultimate key, ISO will take his hands out, creating a placeable zone. This zone can be clearly viewed on your minimap, similar to the Breach ultimate, to ensure accurate placement. Upon placing his ultimate, ISO will pull himself and the first enemy hit by the ultimate into an arena. However, there is something important to keep in mind when using the ultimate. Both you and the enemy will temporarily gain max health, placing you and the enemy in a balanced 1-on-1. So don't just ult someone because you heard they are weak. Now of course, to make it more fair for the character spending all their ultimate points, ISO receives 2 barriers to play around compared to just 1. But you might be thinking, isn't it still quite easy to die in my own ultimate? And the answer is, well, yes. Consequently, Riot allows you to activate double tap prior to using kill contract, giving you a shield that can be taken into the arena. So now not only do you have an extra barrier to work with, but also a shield that can save you from the first bullet the enemy sends your way, ultimately increasing your odds of leaving the arena victorious. Now I know about the ultimate, when should I use it? Typically the ultimate should be used to try create a pick on the enemy team. When attacking, I typically recommend using the ultimate to grab a player whose location has been revealed, to minimize your chance of missing an enemy and wasting the ultimate. An example of this could be if my Sova were to dart backside C on Haven, scanning the Cypher hiding backside. With this information, I can immediately send my ultimate onto Cypher, placing him into my arena. While Cypher is inside my arena, his abilities will also go offline, meaning his tripwires will become inactive, allowing my team to quickly take space on site. If I win this duel, not only do we begin the round 5v4, but site should be much easier to clear. And if I lose the duel, my team should be backside at this point to immediately kill the Cypher as he returns back to the map, which just shows sometimes losing the ultimate can work out greatly. Here we can see although Demon 1 lost the duel in his ultimate, the team were able to secure the kill regardless. So don't be too hard on yourself if you whiff those shots. Similarly on defense, if the team gathers information of an A rush for example, feel free to send an ultimate towards their direction from a safe location. By doing so, you can possibly pick off a key agent from their attack such as the controller or duelist. Now for the fun interaction not even most high elo players are aware of. ISO and Yoru have a very unique interaction with kill contract. Yoru can send his clone in anticipation of getting ISO ulted, which will send the clone inside the arena. Funny, I know. Let me know if you already knew this down in the comments. So for those struggling against his ultimate, if on Yoru, be sure to use his clone. Otherwise try use a right click with the classic as soon as you get placed into his arena. Although Cypher lost this fight, we can see he quickly removes the shield, giving him a more equal fight when reswinging. Now let's view how to best use all his kit together. ISO is brilliant for creating space on attack, hence why he is a duelist. All his kit can help cover different aspects that may normally cause some issues. When rushing a site with your team, Undercut will create pressure for the defenders, weakening key areas players usually lie in. Contingency can then be used to block important lines of sight, such as a defender swinging off contact, allowing you to easily clear those tedious corners. By combining this all with double tap, he is almost unstoppable. Just look at how Knights is able to run straight through A to flank and secure the round. But his kit also shines on defense. Let's quickly take a look at Oxy perfectly combining both double tap and his wall. We can see his team are looking to take A main space on Lotus. Oxy places his wall down, allowing him to scale up behind it with no worry of being killed. He follows this up by activating double tap preparing to fight. Continued with fantastic aim to win his team the round. Double tap and undercut are also commonly used together to secure kills as they have great synergy. In this clip, Tens takes control of A space using double tap combined with undercut to secure his kills. He then uses his ultimate knowing that even if he dies, there will still be value as his team can trade the kill. Unfortunately, he does end up losing the 1v1, but regardless wins the round for his team.
Waylay is Valorant's newest addition to the Duelist roster, coming in at light speed to run her opponents down. Hailing from Thailand, Waylay is intended to be a movement duelist that utilizes quick reflexes to evade fire and keep herself alive. In the next 10 minutes, we are going to be breaking down exactly how you can abuse Waylay for free RR and start climbing the ranks today. Starting out by breaking down Waylay's abilities, her signature is called Refract. Similar to something like a chamber TP, Waylay can activate Refract and within the next few seconds reactivate it to teleport back to safety instantly. This recall is most effective when entering to avoid getting traded, and ideally you want to run in to get a pick and then recall before your opponents can retaliate. Some interesting things to note with Refract are that you can use this ability while jumping, so it can be an actually pretty decent info gathering tool at the right times. Say for example you're in a smoke and you want to gather information on the other side without just risking your life by swinging out. You can quickly jump through the smoke and immediately press Refract to recall yourself back to safety, gathering information for your team, and potentially pulling a crosshair or two, while possibly winning your team a duel. Other things to note as well is that you don't actually have to recall. You can always just let the ability time out and keep going, which is nice in case you find yourself in a strong position. This is not the same thing as like a Phoenix ult for example, where after completing his ult, he will be forced to concede any map control that he gained immediately. As you could guess, with this being your signature ability, it is handedly the strongest part of Waylay's toolkit, and you should be using it to push your advantages when possible. Here's a simple clip where you'll see that Primi activates Refract before walking down mid on defense. He finds a favorable duel this round due to the enemy being on eco and him taking a pretty far range duel with his rifle. Then, immediately after landing his skill, he just pieces out to safety. Perfect example of how to use this ability at its core. It's also worth noting that Refract allows ability usage during its duration as well, which combos especially well with the next ability, Lightspeed. When using Lightspeed, Waylay gets the option to either dash twice back to back or just dash once to cover a quick distance. The first dash is also able to be used upwards, which can be nice to gain some pretty hefty elevation as well. This is pretty similar to a Jett dash, except it can't be primed the same way. It requires Waylay to pull out her dash first and then look in whichever direction that she wants to go. This means that it's not as excellent as a disengage tool as Jett's might be, but what it lacks on the defense, it gains a little bit of extra mobility when pushing forward. You can cover more distance and you can evade pretty effectively by changing your direction for the second dash. A cool technique worth noting though is that wherever you're looking for the second dash, you'll quickly move to. So So you can do things like dash forward out of a choke point for info, and then immediately dash backwards towards safety if your mouse control is good enough. Or you can dash out of a choke and then immediately beeline it into a different direction. Say for example, A site on ascent. You can dash out A main and then immediately dash towards tree and start wrapping towards garden. Due to the speed of this ability, that first dash is excellent for info gathering, allowing you to use that second dash to then move towards cover and then plan your next move. Now, something worth mentioning with Waylay's toolkit is that she doesn't have a lot of great tools to protect herself when entering. Being able to double dash and recall is cool and all, but when making plays, you're really going to want to combo these things with initiator utility. Things like flashes, stuns, recons, flushing utility, even smokes. Really anything that you can use to provide yourself with some sort of protection as you're just exiting that choke point onto site. To take a look at what this sort of ability would look like in action, take a peek at this clip from Kami.
Flashing out. 3, 2, 1, pop.
Oh yeah.
It's nothing crazy, but take note of how Kami abuses the verticality on light speed to basically put his opponents in an unwinnable situation where they have to land an impossible shot. You're basically breaking your ankles with this ability by dashing straight past them twice. Here's another simple clip from the show match where they introduce Waylay. You'll see how Tens uses his double dash to entry for his team by zooming over towards Generator and landing behind this enemy player. At the same time, you'll see that John QT combos his undercut towards Generator, allowing Tens to quickly land, grab the kill, and then immediately recall to avoid a trade. It is a really simple way to entry, but it's also super effective. Now, the one tool that Waylay does have to assist her entry is her last standard ability, Saturate. This is a simple grenade that when it explodes will apply an effect called Hinder to your opponents that slows them. Not like a Sage slow though, like their fire rate is slowed, their movement speed is slowed, their weapon speed is slowed, even the rate that they fall is slowed. It's a weird new effect being added to Waylay, but it kind of works okay. For all intents and purposes, it is basically a concuss, but there are some slight differences. Now, this ability does have a max range that it can be thrown, and similar to a Phoenix Molly, it'll eventually fall to the ground after traveling too far. It's mostly just helpful to quickly stun an area that you're pushing before pushing in though. Or you can use it to stall a push on defense. It's quite simple. There are a number of abilities like this in the game, so we won't dwell on it too much, but just know that it is great to set yourself up for a safer gunfight. To give you an example, here's a clip of Primi utilizing Saturate to stun a choke point as he attempts to push into market. He wasn't intentionally throwing this at the Cypher when he saw him, it was just something that he was preemptively doing because he suspected that somebody might be there. Now, this Saturate easily saved his life here, and it really showcases at its core how you want to use this ability. Finally, the same hinder effect is applied on her ultimate as well. For Waylay's ultimate, she fires off a massive area of effect hindrance after a short delay, as well as speed boosting herself for a short duration afterwards. This ult is a great execute ultimate, and especially can combo well with some other execute utilities such as Fade's ult, Teo's ult, Sova's ult, or even just things like Teo's missiles, mollies, flashes, whatever you got, just run them over. There's not too many complexities to this ultimate. You can kind of just rip it on sight before an execute, but once it's down, enemies will move very slowly for quite a few seconds, giving you a massive opportunity to push in. Again, let's take a look at how Kami combines Waylay's whole kit here to make a super flashy play.
Flashing over site. Flashing over site again. 3, 2, 1, pop, pop.
One enemy remaining.
Later.
Spike down A. Gonna fall one enemy remaining.
He first begins by popping his ultimate, Convergent Paths, towards sight, looking to stun his opponents as they push in. Immediately following this, you'll see that he activates his Refract to give himself the freedom to at any time immediately recall to safety. Finally, you'll see that he uses his light speed to go over the top of 410 and lands safely in maze, giving him the jump on his opponents. Now, of course, combining this with some nice shots, Kami lands his 3-piece. But it's also great to see that after landing his first kill, you can see that his second opponent is full stunned by his ultimate, and his third target is isolated. Now, immediately after landing that third kill, you'll even see that he recalls to protect himself from a trade, easily securing this round. Honestly, an expert play from Kami with minimal experience on the agent, really excellent to see. Here's another great round from Primi 2 that highlights a lot of the strengths of Waylay's kit. Notice how he utilizes this double dash to start by sending himself over the top of Ascent B site. At the same time, you'll see that he has Refract active though, so at the same time that the enemy Yoru catches him out of position, Primi immediately resets to B main, no harm, no foul. Finally, from this position later in the round, Primi pops his ultimate to disrupt the enemy's retake and lands a few clean kills on his opponents as they are slowed in front of him. Just a great clip that really highlights Waylay's strengths. Now anyway, hopefully you learned something from this video or at least enjoyed the watch, and if you're really looking to rank up this act, then let me tell you how we can help you out today and get you back on track and climbing right away. As mentioned with our Aim God Masterclass, it is designed to teach you everything that you need to know about how to get expert level mechanics in just a few short weeks. It goes over all of the aiming fundamentals that you need to master to frag out in your matches and carry games. Now, we know aiming can feel so hard sometimes, but we will help make it stupid simple and get you ranking up in no time or your money back. Don't forget that site subscribers also get direct access to our coaches in the Discord, so you can get personalized feedback just for you. Nobody understands how to climb out of low elo more than us, so if you're really looking to rank up, be sure to check out SkillCapped using the link below. And other than that, my name is Casey, and I will catch you in the next one.